we're going to do a short meditation, and then we're going to do a little reflection just in our meditation on some questions that I'm going to ask you. I'm going to say, and you'll take those questions to the group, and then you can talk about those questions in the group. And I think that's all we're doing this morning. That's all very simple. Oh. Thanks, Sarah. And this afternoon we're going to meet in the groups again to begin with, and then we'll come back and join the whole group, and then I'm going to do a Dharma appeal on behalf of Taraloka and do a few concluding remarks and say thank you, and that will be the end of the whole retreat. So that's where we're going today. So maybe I should just say something about meditation and reflection just before we start. I know that was one of the questions which was asked, which we haven't got round to answering the questions very much because they were too particular. But what is the difference between meditation and reflection? Well, most of the time, very little difference, to be honest. Given how we meditate and given how we reflect, I don't think there's very much difference. Some people are able to meditate at quite a deep level. I can think of a Dharmachari I know who spends maybe 6 months a year on solitary. And when he describes his experience in the Order newsletter, he's obviously on very, very deep level of meditation where his mind is very, very still. And then when he reflects, he hardly has to use any information at all, and it will have quite a strong reverberation and resonance through his whole system. But most of the time, that isn't what the level that we're functioning at. Most of the time, we're meditating in such a way that we're just reflecting on things, thinking about things, and trying to make our minds a bit calmer and stiller. And then often when we're reflecting, we're also having a lot of different thoughts, and we can't keep our mind on the subject, and we hardly know what we really think about anything. Even though we're doing all this thinking, we hardly know what we really think about anything. But really what you're trying to do through meditation is to create a mind that is ready to receive the Dharma. Just in terms of its relationship to reflection, you're trying to create a mind that is ready to receive the Dharma. And this has got a lovely title. It's called Kala Chitta in Pali. Let me just write this down. Can't spell. And the Sanskrit, I think, is Kalya Chitta, which is a woman at Tiratnaloka. So you might, if you go to Tiratnaloka, you'll know her. Kalya Chitta, Kalya Chitta. Yeah, I'm trying to get the right word. But Kalya Chitta is, so it's called the ready mind, the mind made ready for the Dharma. So that's a very receptive, relaxed mind. And there are many things that take us in that direction. Gardening, meditation, reading a very good novel, poetry, having a very meaningful communication. All of these things will take us in that direction. It will give us a mind that is ready to receive something. A lot of the time our mind is not ready to receive anything. It's like a cup that's very, very full. It's full of all sorts of details, our businesses, all the information that we're interested in, all the different little bits and pieces we've watched on YouTube. It's just full of stuff. And then when you try and add the Dharma into it, either your cup overflows and it's all lost, or else it just never lands. I mean, there are times also when our mind is very susceptible to the Dharma. When it's very still and you've been meditating and you've been doing these different activities. But sometimes when we're traveling and we're not in our usual conditions, our mind is a bit more susceptible to what's coming in. We receive information a bit more like beginner's mind in a way. And what we're trying to receive is real information about the nature of existence, about the nature of ourselves, about the nature of life. We're not just trying to receive information about how to access YouTube. We're not on that level. We're trying to receive information that's going to have a substantial impact on the way that we live our life. And we all know what it feels like to receive that information. Sometimes, we've probably all had this experience. Sometimes you hear one line of the Dharma and you know that you've heard it many, many times before, but suddenly you understand it and your mind was just more ready in that moment to hear it. Or maybe the person that communicates it slightly differently. Some words have more power than others and they land more strongly on us. So you're making your mind open to that kind of input. That's the nature of going on retreat. You're away from all your normal situation and you're in a different environment and everything is pointing in that direction. Sometimes they talk about, in the Pali Canon, they talk about the dye of the Dharma, like as in, this jumper is dyed blue. This is the stain of blue, the dye of the Dharma. And you're trying to create your mind to become like a white cloth. So I'm a textile designer, so I understand the importance of a cloth made ready for the dye. So to create a cloth that is totally clean and white, it will take the colour exactly as it needs to be. It won't influence the colour, it won't change the colour. It will be exactly the right colour. And when the Buddha gained enlightenment and he wasn't convinced that he could teach, he said something like, how could I communicate the Dharma to people that are stained in craving? So he was saying, we're not a white cloth, we're a cloth full of the dye of craving and aversion. How is he going to bring the Dharma to that cloth, stain that person with the dye of the Dharma? And then he gets entreated. There will be some people that are less clogged, less filled with their own colour. But mostly we're filled with our own colour. And what we're trying to do in the meditation is just become a little bit more concentrated and absorbed in our own experience, so we understand who we are, so we hear more of our own authentic voice, and then we can turn our mind to a reflection, and use lines of the Dharma, or just use a line in life, and you can make up a line. I remember doing a reflection with Ratnaguna, and I had this line, how do you love without investment? And that's what we reflected on between us. But I just made up that line because it was of interest to me. How do I love without investment? So there are techniques to make us more concentrated, which is what we're doing with Metta Bhavana and mindfulness of breathing. And then there are reflection exercises where you just have lines of the Dharma and you just feed them in. So this morning we're just going to do a short meditation just to calm the mind a bit. And then I'm just going to feed in just a few questions that you will then take to your group. They're not profound, but they might take us in a good direction, a useful direction. I hope so. And you can just turn them over, like allow those words to just land into that slightly stiller space in your mind, and see what happens. Okay. So just settle yourself into your meditation posture. Just closing your eyes if that feels helpful. Just stilling the mind into the body, into the physical experience of just being here, present, alive. We've been engaging with the Dharma quite intensively over the last few days. So now we've done it all, we've done enough. You can just say to yourself, enough. And just release into that. Just allow your mind to relax and soften. You've done enough. Just relaxing any social persona. And just allowing yourself to be who you are in your natural state. Allowing the mind to be just quite natural in its own way of being. Relaxing any tension that is showing up right now, either in your mind or in your body. And now exploring for yourself. What attitudes and behavior of metta are you familiar with in your life? Is there a particular area where it is harder or easier? What's the difference between having metta for someone where you feel a self-investment and having it for someone where there is little or no self-investment? And the last question, has your understanding of metta changed through the retreat? How has it changed? So drawing that meditation and reflection to a close. Okay, so we're going to take a break when you're ready, and then you'll attend your group.